Welcome back to SecretSpool's Motivational Monday. I'm Darren, and today's story is for anyone who has ever felt invisible, overlooked, or trapped by their own self-doubt. If you've ever found yourself worrying about the opinions of people who don't truly know you, this story might just be the shift you've been waiting for. Let's get into it. For most of my teens and early adulthood, social anxiety wrapped itself around my life like a quiet fog I couldn't escape. I always felt watched, judged, evaluated, even when nothing was happening. A simple walk across a classroom felt like a spotlight was following my every step. I wasn't living my life, I was performing it. I thought everyone else had life figured out. They talked without thinking, laughed without self-consciousness, and moved through the world with a confidence that felt unreachable. Meanwhile, I rehearsed every sentence in my head and still stumbled over my words. It made me believe something was wrong with me. Looking back, the truth was simple and painful. I was starving for approval. I wanted people to like me so badly that I molded myself into whatever shape I thought they wanted. If they dressed a certain way, I mirrored it. If they loved a hobby, I suddenly loved it too. Even my jokes were versions of theirs. I wasn't building a personality. I was building a disguise. There were days when I would stare at myself in the mirror before school and try to guess which version of me would be the most acceptable. That day, I'd switch outfits, adjust my tone of voice, even rehearse how I might laugh if someone made a joke. It wasn't confidence guiding me. It was fear. Fear of standing out, fear of being labeled strange, fear of being seen as anything less than perfect, even though perfection was impossible. I didn't realize then that trying to please everyone meant losing myself entirely. But even with all that effort, I never became popular, not even close. I felt like an extra in the background of my own story. And because I didn't belong anywhere, I kept shrinking myself smaller and smaller, convinced that blending in was safer than being seen. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't chasing friendship. I was chasing acceptance. I wanted someone, anyone, to reassure me that I was allowed to take up space. I didn't need applause. I needed permission. And because I believed I wasn't enough on my own, I kept giving that power away. Everything changed unexpectedly when I took a job that required strong communication skills. It wasn't glamorous or high-paying. It was simply the kind of job where hiding wasn't an option. I had to greet strangers, answer questions quickly, solve problems, and speak with a clarity I definitely didn't feel internally. At first, I was terrified. Every shift felt like a test I wasn't prepared for. I'd walk in with my heart pounding, convinced I was going to say or do something embarrassing. But gradually, very gradually, those fears started loosening their grip. Each interaction chipped away at the story I'd been telling myself about who I was. One moment in particular stands out from that job. A customer came in frustrated and impatient, the kind of situation that would have sent me spiraling years before. My hands trembled, my voice shook at first, but I pushed through, helping them calmly, step by step. When they left smiling and grateful, something shifted inside me. I realized I had just survived a moment that old me would have run from. It didn't feel like a victory parade, just a quiet, steady, maybe I can actually do this. That small moment planted the seed for everything that followed. I learned something powerful through repetition. Confidence isn't a lightning strike, it's a muscle. And the more I used it, the stronger it became. I didn't magically turn into an extrovert. I simply realized that fear loses its authority when you stop obeying it. One day, something clicked. I noticed that most people I interacted with weren't scanning me for flaws. They weren't judging my tone or analyzing my posture. They were focused on their own day, their own worries, their own lives. The harsh spotlight I imagined wasn't real. It was a trick of the mind. Years later, I ran into a few people from the cool crowd, the ones I once admired, envied, and desperately wanted approval from. And to my shock, many of them were exactly the same as they'd been in high school, still chasing validation, still relying on popularity as a measure of worth, still performing just like before. That moment hit me harder than I expected. I realized I had wasted years shrinking myself for people who weren't even growing. They weren't some elite group I needed to impress. They were human, flawed, lost in their own insecurities, and suddenly the pedestal I'd placed them on crumbled to dust. Seeing those people again made me realize how much I had built them up in my head. Back then, I thought their confidence was real, their popularity permanent, their path guaranteed. But adulthood has a way of leveling everyone. Some were struggling with direction, some still clinging to old identities, and some were clearly unhappy. It hit me that the people I feared judgment from were just kids trying to figure themselves out, just like I was. I had handed them authority they never deserved, and reclaiming it felt like taking my life back. Once that illusion shattered, everything else began to shift. I started to explore parts of myself I had buried for years. I rediscovered the hobbies I once hid. I began speaking more honestly. I stopped forcing myself into trends or attitudes that didn't feel natural to me. And surprisingly, the world didn't fall apart. I did not lose people. I finally found the right ones. I started dressing in ways that made me feel like myself, not like a carbon copy of the crowd. I spoke more openly about my actual interests, even the ones people might label quirky. And every time I did, I felt something I had never felt before. Relief. I was no longer acting. I was finally living. From there, confidence didn't arrive as a sudden transformation. It grew in small, steady moments, in choosing honesty over pretense, in laughing without checking if others were laughing too, in showing up without rehearsing every possible outcome. Confidence wasn't something I achieved. It was something I allowed myself to become. My friend circle is small today, but it's genuine. Every person in it sees the real me, not the edited version I used to showcase. And that authenticity has made life feel lighter, richer, and infinitely more meaningful. Popularity never brought me peace. Authenticity did. If there's one message I wish I could send back in time to my younger self, it's this. The longer you stay in your comfort zone, the more it convinces you it's keeping you safe. But the truth is, it's keeping you small. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is awkward. Growth asks you to step into situations that stretch you. But those moments are where your identity is rewritten. Stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't always mean making huge, life-altering changes. Sometimes it's as simple as saying hello first, joining a group instead of sitting alone, or allowing yourself to share an opinion without rehearsing it 10 times. These small acts of bravery are often invisible to others, but monumental to you. Every time you choose the slightly harder path, you rewrite the limits of who you believe you can be. Those tiny choices accumulate, slowly reshaping your identity in ways that become impossible to ignore. Life is too short to hide your personality to avoid judgment, too short to silence yourself because you fear someone might misunderstand you, too short to let the opinions of people who barely know you control how brightly you shine. When you stop chasing approval and start choosing authenticity, everything changes. Your voice, your posture, your friendships, and your sense of freedom. Remember this, people's opinions are temporary, but the relationship you have with yourself is lifelong. Choose the version of you that feels honest. Choose the version that makes you proud. The right people will meet you there, and the wrong ones will fall away on their own. Every step I took toward becoming myself felt like lifting a layer of weight off my shoulders. It wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about uncovering who I had always been beneath the anxiety, the expectations, and the pressure to conform. And the more I embraced that version of myself, the more peace I found. Not perfection, not instant confidence, just peace. A quiet, grounded sense that I was finally allowed to breathe without asking permission. Thanks for joining me for this Motivational Monday. If this story resonated with you, take it as a sign to step a little outside your comfort zone today. The real you deserves to be seen. If you like this story, hit like, subscribe to SecretSpool, and share it with someone who might need this reminder. Keep growing, keep reaching, and I'll see you in the next one.